On September 22nd, 2025, Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis was released to the masses, and with it come some new and exciting times for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game overall. So with that being said, it's been about 3 weeks, and we should be getting a point adjustment within the next 1 to 2 weeks. And so I want to go ahead and talk about what has happened overall with the Genesys Invitationals at São Paulo and Anaheim. Overall, the sentiment from the community, and a ton of other things like deck lists and stuff like that. So if you want to go ahead and play Genesys Format right now, go ahead and join the Discord. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis Discord was created by the folks at the NR Format Discord, and it has over 2,000 players. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click the link down below in the description. Take a look at that. I'm a part of the team over there, and I'm really excited to go ahead and play some with all of you. But if you want to go ahead and watch more videos like this, similar to this, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned to go ahead and learn more about what's been going on with Genesys Format. For those of you unaware, I'll give a quick recap of what Genesys Format is. Genesys Format bans all Link and Pendulum monsters and has a point buy system for every other card in the format. Cards can be ranged from 1 to 100 or 0 if they are not on this 538 card list. If you want to go ahead and find out what those card points are currently at, you go ahead and take a look at the Genesys Format Yu-Gi-Oh! Blog right here. There are a ton of different blogs that Konami has been posting as of recently, and very up to date, as I might say, discussing Genesys Format YCS Anaheim as of late, and discussing things that are available, including discussing the first ever point adjustments that happened 2 days after the format was announced. All that being said, what does this mean? Well, Konami has been very willing to communicate with us, and it's no secret as to why now. Konami Digital Entertainment, as it says right here, I'm just reading that off the front, is beholden to the OCG, and this is a standalone TCG exclusive format. So they are able to directly communicate with the individuals without having to worry about any oversight from their counterparts in Japan. This means that they are more free to hit a lot of different cards that do not really make any sense for them to do so overall. A lot of cards at the 100-point scale, as I've made a video about before, are floodgates, and this kind of thing comes from a philosophical reason for this ban list to exist. You can see as I scroll down and find things, there's not a card in here that is in fact fair at the 100-point level, and in fact a lot of them happen to be either hand rips, floodgates, annoying things that you don't want to deal with, or things that stop your opponent from being able to play just in general. So, that being said, why is this the case? Well, with having to go ahead and communicate between both Japan and North America / EU / the rest of the world, a lot of things happen within the ban list that are harder to capitulate to. You see, if it were to be the TCG's way, all of these would probably be in some way limited or banned, but they've come back off because, well, they have to be beholden to the parent company. So with Genesys Format overall, the TCG is able to go ahead and really explore a sort of format that is more for the players and more fun, in my honest opinion. I've genuinely been loving Genesys Format much, much more. Games feel like games. I'm able to interact with my opponent. I'm not being stopped for my mainline combo, but both players are being able to play. It's not just a you go first, you win. You're able to play board breakers and not get floodgated out of those things. It feels very, very good. But overall, what has been happening with Genesys Format? Well, first off, we have to talk about some of the first major tournaments that happened, and that was Farfa's Genesys Open. This was an online Genesys Format tournament put on Dueling Book, and it was very, very shocking what we saw first off. First things first, the variance in these sort of decks that existed is pretty crazy. We see a lot of things that have end up becoming mainstays within the format, including Odeon, Generator, and Vanquish Soul, but also some other cards, also some other archetypes that don't get as much love, such as Art Mage, Punk, Megalith, and Onomat. All of these happen to have some really good All these deck lists existing and being shown show there is a good rank 9 strategy that exists. Odeon is a very good control deck. VS is unhit. Was unhit, I think, around this point. This is one day after the adjustment list, so Holly Sue having 10 points and Shifter being up to 10 was pretty crazy, but still, yeah, very easily able to be used. Archmage existing at all is a surprise to a lot of people. I've been a fan of the deck for a while personally, but I understand it was a shock to some. Gold Pride Punk as well as a very big combo strategy. And Megalith as a deck overall has some big legs on it, especially with the new support that came out. And finally, this one was won over by Onomat Ryzeal. Not Ryzeal. No. This one didn't have the Ryzeal package. Interesting. This one was just an Onomat deck that had went into a big old board with the Utopic Draco Future, and you only had one copy of Onomatopoeia at 33 points. So afterwards, when this happened and Onomat won the overall tournament in the online sphere, it took some time for things to go ahead and really settle down before we got a chance to go and have our first in-person tournament. And a few days later, on the 10th, was the 5th of October? Yeah, the 5th of October, we had Genesys Invitational in Anaheim, and we had a lot of different decks that came forth, but one of the biggest things that came from this, of course, is Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul is a very competent strategy in the format and was won overall by the first ever Genesys Invitational winner, Edwin Martin Strom IV. He won with Vanquish Soul. I'm very proud of nearly anybody who's willing to go ahead and give this format a shot and take it all the way to the top, winning their first ever giant card, getting that kind of thing. It's just a great honor to go and have that, and I want to give him his flowers for that. But he did end up saying that overall the format does need to have some major changes for it because of the strategy in general. He didn't play Shifter, but he did happen to have no need to really play anything other than some good fire and dark targets for Raisin and Holly Sue with Ash Blossom, DD Crow, and honestly some pointed stuff in the side deck, which is not something you tend to see often, including the Droll as well as the Book of Eclipse. So that really showcased a lot of things that do exist in the format that could use some adjustments, including the VS strategy. Odeon as well, having a great showing out with a couple of copies of Needle Sealing inside of the deck. It showcases that the strength of this deck as a control deck is very hard to deal with, especially because there is hardly any back row removal. And a lot of that back row removal is within the side with copies of Cosmic Cyclone. It's very, very strong to do so. Spirit Exosister. Exosister specifically is very, I won't say powerful. The end board that ends up is very low to the ground, but it is definitely something to be concerned with a lot of the times because they're allowed to not only play Shifter, they're able to go ahead and search copies of Thunder King Ryo due to the fact that I believe that Thunder King Ryo happens to have 800 defense, which means that it can be searched off by Ichi Sayori Hime, meaning that if there's any way to go ahead and normal summon it, you can normal summon it, add any level 4 or lower light or dark with 800 attack or defense, meaning that you can get Thunder King Ryo or copies of, Martha, Ellis, like any of the Exorcisers that will have 800 defense, so this is a way to get through that. This is Armatara and Sakitama also having Aratama also having 800 attack. So with that being said, we have a number of also strong things with Generator. This was the first deck to ever utilize and have a high showing with a 100-point card in VFD, as people like to call it. For those of you unaware, True King of All Calamities. This card, for those of you who are unaware, lets you detach one to make Clara an attribute, and all face-up monsters become that, and all monsters on your opponent possessed with that attribute can't activate their effects or attack. Meaning that you can only activate the effects of cards with a different attribute in the hand or in the graveyard. If they're on the field, they become that attribute immediately, and you can't use them. So that is a very strong sort of play style too. It's very difficult to go ahead and really face that down, especially if they're able to get that off going first. But it ended up only getting top 4 and not winning the whole thing, mostly because of the fact that all their points were dedicated to this specific monster. we have more of the Radiant Typhoon strategy finally getting its chance to exist within the format. In fact, using a Runic variant, which was very interesting. The Runic variant is interesting because there is no extra monster zone. So summoning out Hugin or anything to get the field spell of Runic Fountain is difficult. But this opted to go ahead and instead play 3 copies of Pot of Greed. I've seen some versions run around with 2 Pot of Greed, 2 Called by the Grave, 3 Pot of Greed, and this one had 2 Droll. This really gives a sort of new way of playing this deck, of essentially saying, I'm going to combo, I'm going to go off, I'm going to control you with these quick plays, and I believe this person stated that the way that in which he won, yes, this is the individual I watched, he only decked out via the Runic cards, and he gained so much advantage from this deck out strategy that it was able to go ahead and play off without a hitch nearly. Let's see, who else? White Force ended up taking a W as well. Archmage is a combo strategy that is a bit of a different sort of strategy overall. It is powerful. I have played it myself. I think that it is very strong. It dies to Droll and Perulia, in my opinion, but not Fulos, which is something that Droll is constant in the format, but not as, you know, it doesn't happen as often, because you have to go ahead and choose in which your points are going to be put in. Oddly enough, this player chose to opt to play 2 copies of Nibiru, which I think is a very strong card overall in the format, and at the perfect point level for it to be somewhat worth it. Nibiru, of course, being able to end nearly any turn that has a combo strategy, and maining it could be of use, but of course you could face up against a control strategy such as Exorcister or Odeon and not have to face it at all. This was more played for the fact that Punk ended up winning. And oddly enough, a lot of things that you see in the side deck, if you happen to be taking a look, a number of copies of Flying Sea in the top 2 finishers. This is because Flying Sea is a very good card. Flying Sea basically states that it can, if you're aware of what Contact Sea does, it specials to your opponent's field. If your opponent special summons, this card says if your opponent normally special summons a monster, you can special summon this card to your hand to the opponent's side of the field in defense position, and the control of this card cannot exceed summon. The Konami blog ended up stating that one of the reasons why Onomat did not see nearly as much play throughout Genesys Format and Anaheim is because of the fact that they could be floodgated out via Flying Sea. So perhaps a point is willing to be put onto this card as well, to stop your opponent from being like, okay, here you go, have this. You can't play to the extra deck anymore, which sucks. But there have been some ways to go about it. In fact, even a card in this specific strategy in Archmage has a possibility of being of use. Nerva, the Power Patron of Creation. This card, alongside the Trishula Fusion, let you tribute over your own monsters to clear up some board space in order to special summon itself out. I think this is a very underrated card for the format. It is essentially a way to clear up board space while having your extra deck be so open and loose that you're able to play Pot of Extrav strategies. Speaking of, Pot of Extrav, very good card in the format. It is 0 points and is able to get you a draw 2 while having a very loose extra deck, so some strategies that are able to play it just can. And I think that is very powerful. I'm willing to bet that there will be some points hit on this card, and as a matter of fact, they made a discussion about this before at the YCS. Where are you? People are overwhelmingly willing to make extra concessions to play Pot of Extrav. And there was a lot of Pot of Extrav all over the place. Top tails, bottom tails, every member team, and many are winning with it, and the warping deck construction around itself. So consider a textbook example of outperforming its contract quickly and getting a raise in point cost. This card will be getting new points onto it, and they discussed that that's going to happen. You would never see that in the TCG. Anyway, that being said, I think that Archmage is a very good strategy overall. I think that it does not deserve to be pointed just yet. I think that some of the cards that maybe could be pointed is Medes the Pure in the future, but considering that it is only done a couple of good wins so far, is fine by me. And with that being said, there was some stuff with White Forest. I believe that I've seen a video about it at the top 32, in the top 16, perhaps top 32, a version of that list. But yeah, I'm really excited for this format overall. Now, The most amount of info that we have is actually from Sao Paulo. We have our top 8 here, and this is a little bit more of the same, but a little bit of some differences, including with a branded Despia version, which is playing a heavy amount of concessions in order to play the branded strategy, as well as with where are you? Regenesis. Regenesis and Genesys Format is decently strong, actually. I believe the pointed card inside of Regenesis is a copy of, the Regenesis spell card. Regenesis being a 33-pointer means that it is very hard to go ahead and see. You won't be able to have a major amount of consistency. And this player also took some notes from other people and is playing pointed cards within the side deck, which is not something you tend to go ahead and see. This version of the deck is also playing the new Dogmatica Fleur-de-Lis, the Thunderbolt, in order to set a copy of Quad Dogmatica Beast or Punishment, depending on what your opponent has, and is a 25/25 that is able to be specialed out. 3 copies of Regenesis Code is also very good. It brings out cards from the deck and then brings them out on the field. Regenesis is a strategy that I think is well worth it inside of this format, especially with the fact that there are a number of 2,500 monsters that can be tributed over your opponent's boards as board breakers. Breakthrough Skill is a very funny card. This card is imperm, and then if you send it to the graveyard, it's another imperm. Which is, I would say that the inverse is true for some of the old heads out here, but, that kind of thing is very, it's very funny to see that Breakthrough Skill is actually seeing some form of play. We also happen to see that the extra deck is full of a number of different cards that are normally would be considered to be targets for Ultimate Slayer, but this is actually punishment targets with Malong, Garura, and Aggregator. A number of cards that are also utilized, that is in nearly every single deck, is Dark Ruler No More. If we go ahead and take a look at a number of... actually, it's hard to see that. It's very interesting. Very little. I consider to be Dark Ruler No More to be a great staple within the format. No, this one's playing in the main. But Dark Ruler No More is a very strong card at 0 points, but not overly used. Interesting. Yeah, you would think that it would be... Oh, here it is in the main and generator, as opposed to the side. I was looking at the side deck. I think that card is a card to look out for overall. And the last thing was I believe, let's go and take a look at the Despia list. So this one's also very interesting. They're playing 3 Lightning Vortex. This goes hard, I will say. Raigeki and Dark Hole both being pointed means that there's something to be said about cards that aren't as powerful but could still be used. And this is the first ever top with Lightning Vortex in a fucking wild, brother. I think it's crazy. You can see how heavily pointed branded is in this deck list right now. You see that it is 1 copy of Branded Fusion and 1 copy of Mirror Jade. There's none of the other branded fusion, that is the Albion fusion that puts a monster in your opponent's field. None of that. 3 Albion the Branded Dragon, though, as well. Blazing Cartesia the Virtuous and Guiding Clem the Virtuous, both having 3 points, is a little bit strange. A little bit of a not strange. It's very much worth it because this strategy is so independently strong and being able to be used within the Dracotail as well. Oddly enough, no Dracotail tops whatsoever. That is a deck that I've heard as being a decent option overall. But I think that there is a big reason why it's not utilized because of it. Despia Lulu Lilith is also an option for asynchro that you can utilize, and it being 0 cost and a generic 12 is pretty strong. And oddly enough, a Goddess with the Third Eye being able to go as another copy of Fallen of Alabaz or the Grand Guignol is very strong, being able to be sent off of Branded Fusion, sending it plus Goddess of the Third Eye to go into Albion, going into then... Oh, wait, where's the other fusion? Huh? Wow, is the other one not in this list? But yeah, no, I'm very surprised to see the amount of variety in these lists, but still, you see the variety and the power level of these lists being about the same, but a lot of them are still very similar, including VS, Generator, Odeon, some Exosister, and some Onomat in nearly every single one of these. Radiant Typhoon getting a little bit of love in one of these and it can be very powerful overall, but not showing as many results as of yet. Archmage as well, being a good deck over some. But that is the premier tournaments. There's of course the local level, what you think is going to be strong, and I want to hear more about what you think is strong in the format that hasn't been represented just quite yet. Tell me your pet decks, tell me what you're interested in. I'm looking forward to go ahead and trying out Ninja, and I'm hopefully that Ninja will get some point adjustments later. I really want to go ahead and play that deck, but I hear there's an FTK, so I don't know. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see more videos like this talk about Genesys Format, in fact, the new reaction to the point list that is coming up very soon, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll make some more videos about Genesys Format, including maybe some gameplay. Take care, everybody. See ya.